Namaskar, hello, and welcome to Be the Change series. Over the past 2 months, we have been having lovely conversations with each other. Every Sunday, we bring the Be the Change series in English, and we bring masters of meditation from across the globe who would answer to our questions. We live in changing times, and of course, these past 4 months have been changing, challenging, and testing indeed. And some of us have coped up very well to these times, and some of us have found it difficult. Some of us have dealt with it with great difficulty, whereas others have sought out to help. And when we seek out, help often appears in front of us. And it is very famously said, God helps them who help themselves. And when we ask for help, it innately or from somewhere outside, it does appear to us. We have to be brave enough, courageous enough to ask for help. And some of us have been doing that, and we at the Brahma Kumaris have been here to lend out a helping hand to you. Every episode brings in a new master of meditation who has experienced meditation for several decades of their lives, and they offer their deep spiritual learnings in simple terms to us, often answering straight to our questions. So friends, today also we have a master of meditation who has been a meditator for many decades. And in her life, she has spent several years exploring Raja Yoga meditation, both as a student and teacher of Raja Yoga. Today we have Rosemary's sister joining us all the way from London. She also serves as the administrator of the International Co-ordinating Office at the Global Cooperation House in London, the International Co-ordinating Office of the Brahma Kumaris. Sister Rosemary, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's lovely to be here. I'm really happy to be with you all.
Thank you. To all our friends who have joined us on the Be the Change series now, if you're watching this show on Facebook or on YouTube, that is the official Brahma Kumaris Facebook channel, or on the Brahma Kumaris Facebook page, you can start putting in your questions. So you can always type in your questions at the comment section of this video, either on Facebook or YouTube, and your questions would be taken up from the stream, and you would see your questions appearing on the screen, and I would read out those questions to Sister Rosemary, who is our spiritual guide today, and she'll answer our questions. Let's assume if you don't have a question, if you just want to share with us about how you're feeling today, if you just want to share something with us, you can always do that. If you just want to give us a shout out, that is also more than welcome, and you can always do that. Just say hi to us, and we'll respond to that as well. To start with, Sister Rosemary, every day we have several questions that come in, and we just have 1 hour to talk, and there's so many questions that we cannot take answers for. So from yesterday, we have one question which we could not take in yesterday's show, so I will bring it on to today's show. And one of our friends yesterday asked this question that during the lockdown, many people experimented with new ways of dealing pains and stuff. One of the things was dealing with children. For children, it was a new experience as well, because they did not go to school. Some of them had extended summer holidays and everybody had fun. But with recent change in curriculums where online learning has begun, many parents are finding it very challenging to how to create interest in children so that they learn online. How do you see this? How do you help children to accept something new which they are not accustomed to?
Well, thank you for that question. It's a tricky one because every parent is different, of course. Every family is different. Some people cope very well, some people don't. But I think the first word that comes to my mind is patience. I think that when we've all had to live together in a bubble, we're not allowed out, we're not allowed to do this, that, or the other that we normally do, I think that genuine patience is required, because the adults need to show how to do it, to be patient. And studying is very easy for children if they play with it. I've been taught this before, that children love to play and they learn when they play. So if you're trying to teach them their times table or some English written piece of work, make it fun. make it fun for them, so that if you're too strict and too rigid, they're not going to learn. They need love. And also, I think today's children don't have the attention span that, at least in the West, I'm talking about things in the West, of course, that they don't have the attention span that they used to. And so it's important to not say, right, you've got to do 3 hours of study now, and give them half-hour bites, or 15-minute, 20-minute bites, so that they can ease themselves, and then they have a little light relief, and then they can go back to it. They'll be refreshed. That's my initial thought.
Yeah, when you were mentioning about the attention span, I heard one of the child psychologists speak on the television just last week, and she was saying that the children today have an attention span of a hummingbird. So this is something that has happened everywhere in the world, I believe.
Yes, I think
with the advent of technology and smartphones and high-speed internet, a lot of things have changed, of course. Thank you so much for that answer, and I think patience is something that we all need to learn. And one of the questions that has come in right now is the question about patience. And our friend asks this question. She says that, how do we really develop patience? And when she asks this question, I understand what it really means. I remember this joke that many people would say, that there are people who are praying to God. They say, God, please give me patience, but hurry up.
Yes, I've heard that one too.
Yeah. So how do we really build patience? How do we teach children patience, and how do we teach it for ourselves in the first place?
Well, I agree. I think it starts with us. When I came across the Brahma Kumaris, I was one of the most impatient people you could meet. Very fast, always wanted to be quick. And I am still quite quick. But I realized that I was actually beginning to tread on people because of my own impatience. Not everybody can be as quick in the way they think or the way they do things. I have 2 children who are very, very different, for instance. One takes a long time to get the point, but when he gets it, he really gets it, and he's very solid. Whereas the other one is more quick and maybe forgets more quickly. So I think that I had to learn. In fact, it was the first thing that I learned when I came to the Brahma Kumaris, to learn how to be patient. And the first thing that comes to my mind is, I need to be aware of what I'm doing. Because most of the time we have habits that we just do, and we just behave the way we behave. And if my habit is such, I'm not aware of my habit, then I need to think about that and do it. And the only way I can think about what my habits are is to slow down the mind. And of course, if you're impatient, your mind is always being very, very fast. And so learning meditation, you realize that you need to slow that mind down, because we're always thinking. And I need to know what I'm thinking. My awareness needs to be nurtured, so that if I'm performing an act or doing something that is fast, I have to be aware that it's fast and impatient, and begin to say, no, I don't want to be like that. I want to learn patience, so therefore let me think about slowing down. And that's where it really begins, is in the mind, slowing down the mind.
And one thing about children is what I wanted to understand is, how do you teach patience to children? Because often I have heard it in schools and otherwise when we interact with students, whenever we have a chance to go to schools for various programs, is teachers would often tell the children, they would say, patience, Rahul, patience. And that is what they would shout out. And is this how patients talk to children? Just by saying that word out loud, does it really bring patience to me?
I wouldn't think so. I don't think I would be able to teach my children that way. I'm not a teacher of children as such, so I'm only talking from long ago experience. I think it starts with me. If I, as the mother or the father, am developing patience and I give them time to develop what it is they want to say. So often we cut children off and we say, oh, I know what you mean, don't do this, don't do that, or slow down. And so instead of ordering children, sometimes it's better to be loving with them, to actually sit them down and start explaining why and the resulting consequence of being impatient. For me, that's very important. I don't think I always did that with my own children. I was ignorant and I didn't know what to do sometimes. And so I didn't spend the time that it takes to teach a child just to be with them, to slow down, and to be very loving and explain the consequence of their actions. And one of them is impatience.
So the best way to do is to start with you, with your own self, and then they can see you doing it, and then they'll start learning it as well.
It's an example. You have to set the example. And how many parents are impatient? They've got all the chores to do, probably working, have to get everything done, cleaning, cooking, whether it's the man or the woman, it doesn't matter. But there's so much pressure out there today. And it's sad. And I think we need to slow everybody down.
And one thing that I did like about what you said was about not cutting children. When they're speaking something, you should not cut them out in between. You should listen to them. And sometimes as adults, we feel that, oh, I already know what you're trying to say. And that somehow shows that we are impatient. And one of our friend, Hema, she is watching the show on YouTube and she says, oh yes, everything starts with us. We change and everything changes. Thank you, Hema, for that feedback.
But also interesting, sorry to interrupt you, but it's also interesting that we do it to adults. If we're very quick thinkers, I'm also ahead of them. I think I'm right, but I probably am wrong in what they're going to say. And I interrupt them and say, I'm ahead of you, sort of thing. But it's adults and children. It's a natural thing that we have to develop for everybody, not just children.
I think that is a very beautiful thing to start with, to build patience inside, is to sit and listen to what the other person has to say.
Being a listener is very difficult. Being a listener is very difficult.
And it requires a lot of effort, a conscious effort to do that.
Yes.
Yeah. One of our friends, Rameshwar Deshmukh, asks this question on YouTube. He's watching the show live, and Rameshwar has a question. What is wrong and what is right, and how to justify it? What is the difference between right and wrong? I believe this is a question that many people have now started pondering about since they have started exploring spirituality over the last 3-4 months. That many of them have done online courses from the Brahma Kumaris or any other meditation courses as well. So he's asking, how do we judge, how do we decide which is right and which is wrong, and how do we justify that? Rameshwar.
Rameshwar, thank you for that question. That's a really, really deep question, I have to say, and thank you for asking it. It probably would take an hour and a half to actually discuss the whole thing. But I think, actually, and you may not like this, I don't think there's any right or wrong. I believe that everybody is on a journey in their lives, and they probably have many lives, and that they each individual has a certain path. And if I think somebody's doing something wrong, it may not be wrong for them. It's me that's thinking it's wrong. So I'm using a wrong discerning in my mind to judge somebody else and say, I think you're doing wrong. Who am I to judge? I don't know why somebody is doing something. It could be that they've had some trauma in their lives and they're behaving in a very difficult way. And because I don't like it, it's not wrong. And even if well, it's all to do with karma, actually, which in the West we take it as meaning my action. And so if I have behaved in a certain way in the past, then I'm going to see that behavior coming towards me. And it can go from mental to physical to many, many ways, I think. I could tell you a story. Would you like a story about that?
Yes, please.
Okay. I hope you haven't heard it before. There was this man sitting in the underground. We have an underground system here in London, and he was sitting in the underground, and he had his head in his hand like this, and he had 3 children, and they were running around the underground carriage and being very noisy and being very playful, and all the people who were sitting there were, why doesn't he control his children? You know, terrible man. He's a bad father. He should keep them to him. And, you know, they were criticizing him no end. So somebody had the courage and dug him in the ribs and said, why don't you take control of your children? And the man looked up and he said, I am so sorry. We have just come from burying their mother. The moment he said that, the whole carriage changed. And they said, children, come and sit here. I have a suite. Come. And they started to love them. So to me, that's a very poignant story because I have no idea what somebody else is going through. And some people thought he was behaving very badly because he wasn't taking control of his children. But actually, you know, it just wasn't like that at all. It's a very superficial answer, Shrinidhi. It's a very superficial answer because it is a very deep subject, what is right and what is wrong. But I have no right to judge people.
Yes, I believe, even though you say it is a very superficial answer, but it does give an answer to people to understand that what you see on the surface might not be all. You cannot judge a book by its cover. You would have to first put yourself in that place, go deep inside, and then probably analyze if you just want to see what is right and wrong. Because if you do not know the whole thing, then probably you cannot be the judge of it. And I believe Rameshwar understands and appreciates the answer. Our next question comes from Priya Rajpal. Priya has joined us on Facebook and she's watching this program live on Facebook. She says, how to be nice or serving someone without being abused or someone taking advantage of me. Sometimes we tend to be nice. We try to be good to others, to be nice to others so that we could serve them or give them something or do something for them. But sometimes people take advantage of you when you're being nice to them. So she says, how could we be nice without being abused or without being taken advantage of? Priya.
Well, thank you for that question, Priya. It's one that is asked many, many times, especially these days. I think life is tough with relationships particularly. My feeling, for what it's worth, is that I want to ask myself a question. Why am I being nice to that person? Is it because I want something back from them? If I want something from somebody, it could turn into disaster. There'll be disappointment or sadness or something that will happen if I want something out of a relationship. So always I like to check myself. Why am I being nice to somebody? Actually, I don't need to be especially nice to one person and not the other. I want to treat everybody the same. Even myself, I want to treat the same. So for me, it's a question that I need to ask myself. Why am I being nice to this person? There's another thread to this question, which is if somebody is being very unpleasant to me. So Priya, I appreciate your question. Thank you. I think that if and I've personally been abused too, I think I have to learn a lesson somehow from it. Either that I haven't stood up for myself, I don't have any self-respect to be able to say, this is not good enough. I am not going to accept this behavior. So rather than blaming them for the way you feel, I start to learn my own self-respect. It is a very deep question, actually. All these questions I find, Priya, are very, very, very personal and very deep, and they need a lot of attention.
I believe that is one of the. Sorry, I did not get.
I'm not sure if that helps, but it's a starting point. It's a starting point.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, friends, for bringing those questions into the show. And one of the real things that I like about being here as the moderator of the program is I get to listen to so many of you who pour your hearts out to us. And you're so honest about what you're feeling at the moment and what is really that you're juggling through. And you look up to us as our friends and you share, even though we might not be here to give you solutions, but we're here to offer whatever advice that we think might help you. The next question also comes in from Facebook, and Hari Babu asks this question. And he says, all the people around the globe have become prayingly busy to share and spend quality time before COVID. And to adapt to a new normalcy in the present times are hurrying to pour their hearts' locked feelings or relax like a tortoise. I mean, well, from what I understand from his question is, before COVID situation happened, we wanted to spend quality time with our family or friends and share things with people whom we love. And now suddenly after the COVID thing, when we are calling this a new normal, we are suddenly in a hurry to get back to a new way of living where we're not ready to address our feelings. We are leaving our feelings locked in our hearts. So how do we really address these things that we have not shared with anyone? We have kept it to ourselves.
Well, Hari Babu, thank you for that very complex question. I think that if I understand it correctly, you used to be able to share your feelings because you could meet everybody.
Yeah.
But now, because you're stuck in your situation, in your close family, you can't move out, you can't share your feelings, but you can share your feelings, presumably on the telephone or something. Are you talking about maybe hugging somebody, or I'm not sure, but I think it depends what temperament you have, because for somebody, the lockdown has been great. You know, they like being alone, or they like being with a small family because they've been able to get to know each other better. Really, I'm amazed. We've been allowed to walk in our parks, and I have been amazed at how lovingly the father and the mother and the children are together, spending lots of time. Unprecedented time. Father usually doesn't see their children, but maybe at the weekends a little bit, you know, because he's busy working or something. The mother's always out working too. So it's been for us, I've seen a very special time where people are getting to know each other, to express their love for each other, to play with each other, to have fun together. Maybe children are learning to cook. The father's teaching them different things. So it's been a wonderful experience for many. For the lonely, I think it's not so good sometimes. And I think here in England, for instance, we've done a lot of people going out to people's homes, but not being connected too closely, but maybe 2-3 meters apart, and just staying or doing their shopping or just going to read to them or phoning them, even if they don't know them. This is a charity thing that the people have been doing. So how to return back to that way? I think we have to be patient, because I don't think this is going to happen for a long time. I think we have to wait, and we have to learn to get our strength for our feelings from within. For me, this lockdown period, I'm a believer in God, and I think that I've come closer to him because he gives me sustenance when somebody else can't. If I don't have the family close to me, I can get my sustenance from God.
Indeed. Just when you mentioned about how you have utilized lockdown, many people think that people who are spiritual, or people who are meditators, or people who have been working with some kind of spiritual or religious organization might have had a lovely time because of the lockdown, because they have had time to reflect more, introspect more, spend time with themselves, or whatever. But as a common person, if our friends would like to ask you this question, how did you spend the lockdown, let's say in the past 3-4 months? What were those things that kept you motivated, things that kept you afloat, for that matter, where you did not feel heavy about it? Or what things that did you tell yourself to deal with the situations outside?
Interesting question. I personally enjoyed lockdown a lot. I had really loved it. I think I learned how to Zoom, make all these Zoom calls. I don't know if they're popular there. I'm sure they are.
Yes, it is. It is.
Of course. And you can really connect with people on a one-to-one basis, or families in the room. You can really have fun together. So technologically, I've been learning a lot. I've also been teaching online, the Brahma Kumaris Raj Yoga course, and that's really wonderful. So that's kept me busy and kept my mind occupied. We have been able to go shopping. Even the elderly, like me, have been able to go shopping at certain times of the day. We wear masks and all that sort of thing. So I've been able to get out and do that. And I've spent a lot of time with my 2 children who live close by. And we sit in the park together, and we go for walks and that sort of thing. But I think the Zooming has been really a godsend for everybody, because we can visually see each other and connect, even if I can't give anybody a hug.
Yeah. So those were things that, yes, of course, those were things that you really enjoyed very much. And of course, like you said, many people did not enjoy it altogether, but probably they tried to find new ways of doing things differently. And like you said, you learned something technologically as well. Next question comes in from YouTube, and Ananya is watching this show on YouTube. And she says, Om Shanti, can you please explain if I'm just not like anyone's, if I just not like anyone's behavior, does that also affect my karma? Interesting question. I think I would rephrase it a little bit. What she means to say is, let's say if I just don't like somebody's behavior, does that affect my karma?
Well, I believe that just thinking something is actually karma. It's an act. It's an act I do. And with meditation practice, I am learning to diminish those negative thoughts about other people's behavior. Because I can't change anybody else. I can only change myself. And now I realize I don't actually want to change people, that they need to do what they need to do. But I think that, yes, everything starts with a thought. And so what I like to think about is, what am I feeding my mind? Thoughts come into the mind, and I have to check it. And this is all very fast. The mind works very, very fast. So don't worry about the speed of things. You won't look silly or whatever. But I like to stop and think, is this going to be beneficial or is it not? So there are always going to be people who ostensibly I don't like. But what I need to do is to stop thinking like that. Everything starts with a thought. Let me stop thinking like that and start filling up my mind with finding out a good point about that person. And so the more I think about somebody in a good way, even if they're behaving badly, find that nugget of goodness in them, and then that will begin to override your negative thoughts about them. And that's what our training is, to change the mind from thinking negatively to positively. And sometimes it's very difficult, I know, but you can work at it, and it does help to set the habit of thinking better and well about people's behavior.
Just when you were saying about working with your mind, I have a similar question that comes from a friend on YouTube, Akramul Khan. Akramul Khan has asked this question, and he asks, how do bad thoughts come into our mind? He wants to know how these thoughts are produced in our mind, because nobody really wants to produce bad thoughts. Everybody wants something good, but nonetheless, we still have bad thoughts about people when somebody misbehaves or somebody does something wrong. How does it actually happen?
Another very deep question, Akramul. Thank you very much for it. All deep questions, aren't they? I think personally that I am a soul, and I've had many, many births, and the soul has acquired habits over time. And within the soul is the mind. And so the mind has an experience a long time ago. And if it's another same situation that comes about in another life, in this life, after many lives, you will find that deep thought will come surfacing to the mind because it's a similar situation, whatever the thought is, good or bad. And so that is what comes up in the mind, and that's where it comes from. It comes from a past experience. I find the soul is an amazing thing because it is you can't see it, it's invisible, but it holds everything that I've ever done, many, many lives. So it's more magic than a computer, it's more magic than anything, and you can't see it, but it has this capacity to be able to resurface things in the mind that have happened to you before, and that is a habit.
And that is how habits are formed, and that is how a bad thought really appears in our mind, because there is an impression of it before. And that is what meditation consciously helps you to do, to undo those things, to wipe that thing off and to create something positive.
Thank you.
Next question. Thank you, indeed. The next question comes from Satrupa. Satrupa has joined us on YouTube, and she asks this question: if someone is ill and we send him blessings for his healing, but unfortunately he dies later after some days, then what happens to our vibes? Did that help him or not?
Wow, wonderful questions. Thank you, Satarupa. I think that those vibes definitely did help. We cannot tell when somebody is going to die. It could have happened a long time after, but I think anybody feels better if we send them good wishes in our minds, because thoughts travel. The soul of the person who was going to die would feel those beautiful thoughts that you were giving. And I think that soul person, whoever it was, would have benefited so much from the loving good wishes that you sent him. And he probably left the body was dead a lot happier than if you had sent horrible messages to him. So no vibrations of good wishes are ever lost, ever. I don't believe. I think they will make the world a better place if we all had good wishes for each other.
When you say that, it also brings in a kind of a good feeling that whatever good I do is never wasted, even if it is something that I do not see happening, even if I do not see it happening right in front of my eyes, but that goodness remains. It reaches wherever it has to go. And it's such a good thing for us to continue doing something good and praying for someone or wishing good for other people. Now I don't have a question. This is a shout out, and this is what Indrajit is feeling at the moment. Indrajit says, "Sometimes I misbehave, though I don't want to do it." He's not asking a question. He's just sharing that he says that sometimes I misbehave, even though I don't want to do so, but sometimes I do. So I think.
Can I let you into a secret? So do I.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a human being who doesn't misbehave in some little way, some big way, some little way, when they don't really want to. Because we're all learning. We're all learning on our journeys. Thank you for that shout out.
Yeah.
Indrajit's back.
Yes, he's back again with the question now, because we said that it was a shout out. Yeah, his question is, it is something related to a government employee. He says, how can a government employee do public dealings more effectively? I mean, what should the thought process be during public dealings in government offices? I think one of the reasons why he's mentioning government offices is because as public servants, there is a lot of pressure on us where we behave in a certain way because we think that we are in power, we are the seat of the government. So whatever we say, we can get away with it. So how do we really process our thoughts before dealing with people in front of us?
Well, I'm not sure I know the answer to that one. I also worked for somebody who was in government, and but it was 25, 30 years ago. And so it was, I think, a little less corrupt in those days, if you can say that. Yes. I think things are extremely corrupt now, and it must be very difficult working in government offices, personally. I don't know what comes to my mind immediately, to be honest. I think your own thinking process has to just be transformed all the time, always being aware of what you're thinking. As before, we were talking about it, sending out good vibrations. Even if, we've talked about seeing people doing wrong, don't spoil the atmosphere by challenging them and getting angry yourself. That's not going to help the atmosphere in the place. And I think we're in times where, corruption is so rife and so deep that maybe just your good vibrations is all that you can do. It's not an answer, nothing I can do.
Yeah, sometimes we are in those situations where we cannot really help the person in front of us because that is how the systems are, or sometimes we do not have the power or the capacity to do something for them. But I guess that is where spirituality comes in, where you just give good wishes, good vibrations, and even though you're helpless, but you convey it in a way that people understand where you stand. Interesting.
I think it's good to stick to your own principles. If you believe in not getting angry because you're practicing meditation, then don't get angry. Make sure that anybody who comes at you with some behavior that's not acceptable, don't speak in anger. Reflect and then respond to people with calmness, with gentleness, with kindness. And explain to them without blaming them that either their behavior isn't right or whatever, but don't blame the person, blame the situation.
Friends, we are 40 minutes into the show and we have another 15 minutes more to ask more questions. And if you want to ask more questions or if you want to just say anything, you could just type that into the comment section here on the video, either on Facebook or YouTube or on any of the social media platforms that you're watching this video. And if you have any private question where you do not want to disclose your name, let's say you want to ask a question that is private in nature, which is very personal, and would want us to keep your name undisclosed. So we'll do that. We'll keep your name private and we'll still take that question. And for those kind of questions, you can always write to us at social media @brahmakumaris.com. And at certain times when we believe that the question is of a nature where we cannot discuss that in public or on the show like this, we will also strive to write back to you with an answers from our spiritual expert. So if you have a question like that, please do not hesitate, and we are here to help. So you can always write to us at social media @brahmakumaris.com. I have the next question, Sister Rosemary, that comes from Aditya. And Aditya is watching this program on YouTube, and he asks this question. I believe he's also new to meditation, and he's been meditating for quite some time now. I visualize a point of light in my meditation, which makes me feel light and happy. But my question is that the real power of God which I feel, or is that just an illusion? Aditya.
Thank you, Aditya. I personally feel that it's genuine. I personally feel that if you've recognized Shiva, you've recognized God, you've recognized Allah, whoever it is, or however you call him, I think that if you recognize him, then you can feel and absorb his love. And for me, I don't visualize a great deal, but I certainly feel. I know that God exists, even though it's only a tiny, tiny speck of light, but the power that comes from it is amazing. And those vibrations I feel I can absorb. And it certainly makes me feel a lot better and a lot happier. So yeah, carry on with the good work.
It is something which is very important for many of us, that we should carry on with things. The next question comes from YouTube, and Nikita Parvani asks this question. And Nikita says, can you guide me? And her question is, my pain did not find a way. I feel my heart with the deep emotions. I feel that my heart is filled with deep emotions. Things that can be done, or I should be at the receiving end. What I do mean by saying this is sometimes things can't be done by me, but what will happen to me if I don't do those things? Sometimes people ask you to surrender when you have nothing to do. All that you could do is just surrender. And she says, how do I really do this? Because I feel that I have always been on the receiving end, and even if there is pain, I do not know how to deal with it.
Yes, thank you. I didn't catch her name.
Nikita.
Nikita. Hi, thanks for that very genuine, heartfelt question. I feel we feel pain when I haven't set any boundaries. I haven't made myself, my inner core strong. And I'm quite weak. And when I'm emotional, I'm at a weak spot. I'm not being able to cope with the external stuff that happens in this world, the pain that we could feel. And it's okay to feel pain, but we don't want to go overboard with our pain, do we? So we need to set some rules in our hearts. And the only way I can do that is to learn about myself and to learn that I have to have self-respect, that I have divine help if I want it, and to build up that inner core of strength so that I can deal with things that are perhaps not so pleasant in my life with a lot of strength. I know that when I came to the Brahma Kumaris, I was actually topsy-turvy. I was very, very weak inside, very weak, no self-respect, really at a low point in my life. And because I was never able to stand up for myself, I was always downtrodden. But my counterpoint to that was that I had a lot of ego and I was very bossy. And I had my opinions, and that was that. But I was like jelly inside, you know. So slowly, I have learned that I can respond to people and build up my own self-respect and love myself so that I don't feel the pain like I did. And if I want to say something to somebody, as I said before to a previous person, let me do it with my own self-respect, standing up strong and saying what I really feel without blaming anybody and without judging them. So pain, yes, I think pain is always there, but we can lessen it when we have this feeling of self-confidence in who I really am. And to me, Raj Yoga taught me that. But it is a long process because people take advantage of people who are soft and weak. But I want to be soft and strong.
And when you just were mentioning about being soft and strong and people taking disadvantage, I have one more question that came in right through. Babu Reddy asks this question on YouTube, and he says, "Sister, being the good human being, people take disadvantage. Still, should we still continue to be a good person?"
Thank you, Babu Reddy. Absolutely, yes. Never stop being a good person. I think that everyone can be good. There's always a nugget of goodness in everybody. And most people want to help people. But sometimes we do too much. And so people take advantage of us. When, as in the previous person, I said, we have to build up a core of strength and some boundaries. It's okay to say, no, I cannot do that for you today. You know, so often we want to say yes to please people, to make people love us. And that's a human trait at the moment. And it's really not good for me if I keep doing that, because it just, as you say, people will take advantage of you. But what do I feel if I'm in full self-respect and somebody asked me to do something? If I choose to do it, and it's my choice whether I do something or not, I can do it without even thinking what they're thinking. If I'm thinking they're taking advantage of me, apologies. If I think that they're taking advantage of me, then I am actually not thinking in the right way. I'm doing something because I want something back. So don't let me even think about them taking advantage. If I'm at that stage, then I need to not do what I'm doing. I need to change my way of behavior, change my way of thinking. Because I want to do things because I want to do them. With love, because I want to help. But if I'm doing it because I want something back from somebody, then I'm going to feel resentful. And I don't want to do it next time. So all these things come soft and strong, Nikita. Yeah.
Indeed, many of our friends are writing feedbacks to us as well. And as you have said things that they like, things that they have picked up from your conversation, anything that you've said, they would share it back as a shout out on the social media platforms. Thank you so much for doing that, friends. We are close to 50 minutes at the moment, so
wow, it's going so quickly. Thank you to everybody. I love it.
Yeah. I believe we'll take the last question for the day today, friends. And this question also comes from Aditya. Aditya has this supplementary question. He says, Om Shanti Didi, could you please explain the law of karma and how do we always do the good karma and how to deal with the bad karmas that we have done in the past accumulation of bad karma is what he asks. And I believe this comes out from many of our friends who have done meditation online in the last 3 months. They have done the Raja Yoga meditation course and they're new to these spiritual understandings. So even though people here in the East have understood the law of karma, they have heard about karma, but they do not understand how does it really work. So Aditya's question is about how does it actually work? How does the law of karma work? And how do we always deal with, how do we always do good karma and deal with the past bad karma?
Do you have a week? It's a very, very long question, many things. I think if you could leave the question up, I would like it. Explaining the law of karma is whatever I give out, I get back. That's as simple as that. If I throw a ball against a wall, it's going to come back at me at the same strength that I throw it. No change. But it may be at a different time when I don't realize that I'm getting the return of something I did a long time ago that I don't remember. This is a very brief answer, by the way. So that's good or bad karma. Action is action, good or bad. So whatever I put out there, like a boomerang, it's going to come back to me, good or bad. So how do I always do good karma? Being aware of what's going on in the mind and my behavior and my actions. That to me is a starting point. And then how to deal with last bad karmas. If you've recognized God and you meditate with God, I believe that he gives me the strength to take away a lot of my karma. Not all of it. I'm still got some work to do myself to settle my karma. But I think meditation with Baba, with Shiva, with God, whatever you call him, I think that will help. But you need to recognize him to be able to absorb his love, to be able to give you the strength to understand all the things that have happened. And I also don't think it's necessary to think about all my bad karma. Oh, my bad karma, forget it, actually. It's in the past. What I need to do now is set my future. And that's why I need to do good karma. And that will also help to settle my bad karma. The other thing before we finish, I think that when something bad happens to me right now, I have learned to say, it's okay. I'm sorry this is happening, but I'm going to be smiling and happy with it, whatever it is, because I don't want to react and start more karma. So let me just be relaxed about whatever's coming to me, whether it's a parking ticket, whether it's losing a bit of money, whatever. Even if it's something worse, let me treat it with love and self-respect and just accept what is happening to me, because understanding that it is settling past karma. That's a very short answer for a very, very tricky question. I don't know if that's good enough, Aditya, is it?
Yes. I believe it still points out the essence of everything that law of karma explains. And sometimes even though there is bad karma, there is no point of returning to it and saying that, oh, my bad karma, my bad karma. Many times we develop a habit of saying that, and I believe that does not help really. And always focus on doing the good part. What has happened has happened. You leave it there and you move ahead. And I believe that helps. Aditya, thank you so much for asking those questions. Thank you to all of our friends today who have joined in today, and they've put in really nice questions. Most of the questions are very deep today. And it also gives us an insight of what you are thinking at the moment, what you are exploring on your inner journeys. And it is both inspiring and interesting to understand that so many of us have taken up to a new approach and going deep inside and exploring these many things. And thank you so much for finding us as a friend and sharing so many things with us, friends. And I thank you all for bringing those questions and putting us a shout out. Um, just sharing about how you're feeling, all of that is appreciated. Thank you so much. And on all of your behalves, I would like to thank Sister Rosemary, who joined us all the way from London. And she shared very beautiful insights about how spirituality really helps and what is a spiritual understanding of the questions that we have asked. And that really clarifies and tells us how can we really do things about it. Thank you so much, Sister Rosemary, for joining us today.
Well, I can't tell you how wonderful it's been for me, because I love churning on this and talking about things, because it helps me too, because I'm still a student and I'm learning all the time about myself, about other people, how to behave, and to have all these lovely people online. It's like a Zoom call for me. It's been very exciting, and I thank you all for contributing such wonderful questions. As Shrinidhi said, really, I've enjoyed it a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Some of our friends have written feedback as well. I would quickly read out two feedbacks. Babu Reddy writes a feedback and he says, Sister, your answers have inspired me to go on doing good things in spite of people taking disadvantage. Thank you so much. And Aditya also sends in an appreciation and he says, thank you so much, sir and Didi, for making this amazing session. It is really very beneficial for me. Om Shanti. Thank you. And Satrupa also says that thank you so much, sir and sister. If you do such regular question answer sessions, it will help us. It will be helpful for us. Thank you, Satrupa. Thank you, Prem, for all of your feedbacks. And I believe if we go on reading thank you messages, it will take another half an hour or so. But we do appreciate that you take benefit of these things. And thank you for sending out those appreciation messages and for all the love. Since we have another 4 minutes or so left on hand, I would request now Sister Rosemary to lead us into a meditation. And it is a fortune that every day we have a master of meditation who has mastered meditation over many years of practice. So it would be lovely to have you lead us through a meditation where we'll sit in meditation and you guide us through it.
Settling yourself in your chair or wherever you're sitting. Take deep breaths in and out. And relax. Turning my mind towards the inner self. Let me think about who I am. I'm on a journey. A soul that inhabits the body. And my journey can be as good as I choose. My past is my past. But I can now begin to create a beautiful new future. Let me choose my thinking. Let me be aware of what my thoughts are. So when a thought comes, make a choice. Is it a good thought? Or is it a bad thought? Will it benefit me? Or will it not benefit me? Not only me, but others too. But to do all this, I need to gain power because my battery is flat. And when a battery is flat, you need to recharge it. So I need always to turn to the source of power, who is way beyond. But he's always watching, he's always available whenever I choose to think about him. I speak of God. God is the spiritual parent of all souls, wherever they are. And in his company, I always feel safe and secure. It is time now to take advantage of his presence, to take advantage of his benevolence, to build up my own inner core of self-respect and divine virtues. They exist within each one. I just have to find them. So let me keep working on what goes on in my mind and choose the good, the positive, and the beneficial. Om Shanti.